Hello, lovely people. I'm Sinead, and welcome to another Craft and Chat. I have kind of hand-stitched myself into a corner, so I'm not going to be able to get the skirt, the velvet skirt that I started, all the way finished. But I'll work on it some, and I'm going to give you a closer look at the first incarnation of the dress. And I think it has a lovely silhouette as well as details. The fullness has been created with a petticoat, which has brought the hem up higher than maybe I wanted, but it still works. Which you're going to hear me say again. And it's not quite as full at the waist as I want it, which is part of the reason for the second incarnation. Is I want to see if I can accomplish that fuller waist that's coming more out away from the body, straight out from the body. Not the hips, which was done with an under petticoat, like a hoop skirt, but it was on each side of the body so that you looked wide from the front, but narrow from the side, narrower from the side. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish. I just want it fuller, where it kind of comes straight out from the waist, which on the full-size garment is accomplished with cartridge pleats, which help the skirt stand out, as well as undergarments. And I'm trying to get there without the undergarments so much. The velvet's a good start, and I'm kind of regretting the velvet. I like the look of it, but it's I'm having to have the edges finished more than I wanted, and that's part of the hand stitching myself into a corner. Is you can't make a whole lot of progress real fast because I'm having to stop and finish edges, and I realized that I'd forgotten to do the back so that there was a back opening, because it is a doll and you're doing all this detail in the front, and you don't want to disturb that with a gappy opening. Even though I did do the hooks on the front for the stomacher, it could have been a back opening with the stomacher stitched in. It'd still go that route, and it might lay better. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's a choice. I went with hooks, and I wanted to be able to turn the stomacher over, which it's all about what you want to do. So let's turn around the camera and do some sewing. I wanted to start by showing how I'd done some of this a little different. So this is the top. Here's the sleeves on the outside. And this is the lining on just the front. So I attached the front lining, and the back lining is still sticking out over here. And I will take this lining, fold it over, and tuck the edge under and stitch it down, and then stitch it to the back here with the sleeves wrong side out, so that I can tuck this around that seam and encase that unfinished edge as well, all within this lined part, because the sleeves are not lined. And I hemmed the skirt edge of the top with seam tape. It just made it easier. But that's what I've done slightly different. Usually you would just sew up your lining the same as you sewed up the outside and put the two together. And I just wanted to do that a little different, because it can allow you to get a better fit of turning the edges the way you want them, because I wanted these front edges, I wanted the seam to be slightly rolled to the inside, and then I'm going to put lace along there, and I didn't really want it to be the seam that you were looking at in addition to the lace. I kind of want that rolled to the inside. So hopefully by doing it this way, I can get that effect. The other thing that I've got going here is on the skirt, I've applied the lace, and it's gathered, and we have this triangular front panel to look like a petticoat. So At the period, they would have worn an underskirt or petticoat, which don't think of it like underwear, but think of it like an additional skirt. So you've got this skirt, and oftentimes they would pull up the outer skirt to show even more of it. But for the purposes of this one, I will be stitching what would have been the outer skirt to this panel to make it look like 2 layers of skirt. And I put a little bit of lace along that edge. I may add some more fun detailing to this, but as it is taking me quite a bit of time, I don't know, I might leave it for another time. I think it would look really cool to take a strip of organdy and scallop the edges, and then pleat it into and apply it on the outside in the fashion of the time. And let me get the book and show you that picture. This is an illustration of what they would have done with the strip of fabric to pleat it to use. Let's see. And here it is applied kind of in a snaky pattern. And this is another. So they put it along the edge. They've done a kind of a zigzag back and forth with it, and then another piece. So I've seen it done several different ways, with just kind of doing a random squiggle on the skirt and also straight pieces. But it has the texture. And there's another illustration of it being pleated up. Anyway, I may add that later. I think it would be a cool detail on top of the velvet to have a little bit of organdy with rosettes, or just this pleated piece of fabric on there. I also wanted to mention that this skirt, originally I had planned to do the front panel in this triangular shape, with this body of the skirt just being a rectangle, but I didn't have enough fabric. So in order to get the length or distance fullness at the bottom of the skirt, I had to do an interesting little swoop where it's shorter at the top and wider at the bottom, but it's on a rectangular piece. So I extended the rectangular piece and then gave it just a little bit more yardage. So if it all hangs correctly, I'll keep that. But if it hangs funny, I'll go back and do something with a rectangle to get the drape and fullness that I want. Here's the first rendition of the dress finished. We'll come in here. So the stomacher does have fake lacing with velvet ribbon, and we've got the lace sleeves. I think that all worked out really good. The I want to call it a peplum. I don't know if that's actually what it was called in this era, but the skirt of the jacket or top turned out pretty good. And I think I'm going to work on her a wig so that she has the proper hair for this costume before we continue with the skirt. I have the base for her wig. It needs curls added, and I have taken some jewelry that I've acquired from the VDC, and I've modified it a little bit. The necklace has an extender in it so that it hangs a little lower, and the earrings were tweaked so that they would face forward. I also wanted to point out that I did put cardstock in the stomacher, so this has cardstock in it to help maintain those lines and make her look less modern. And I also have a crinoline underneath the skirt so that it has more fullness. It did make it a little shorter, but it's not too bad. So I've added the curls and some flowers. Let's see if I can turn this. And that's how her wig has finished up. If this is something you'd like to see how it's done, let me know. So I hope all the clips that I have shown you so far have made sense as to what I was doing. But this is the handwork that kind of got me in trouble where I was struggling to move faster, is that this is the seam between the front panel and the rest of the skirt, and I started by hand and tacked some things in places that I probably should have undone, and then machine stitched this seam together and then covered it. But I hand stitched the seam together, and I wanted to make sure that the lace laid just right, and I didn't want any stitching to show here or on either side, really. And so I just found myself putting it together by hand and then going, oh, I've got to get that covered, and how do I do that? And so, I've stitched a back stitch on the one side where I just didn't go all the way through. I just am into the seam allowance. And then as I hem stitch the other side down, which is what I'm going to be doing here. I've got the seam that I put in the back. So this was all cut as one piece, and as you saw in an earlier clip, but I needed the back opening. So instead of creating a raw edge by cutting it apart, I just stitched this part along there, and the fold keeps that from being a raw edge. And then all I have to do is finish off the opening. And I'm using rayon hem tape that I had. That is kind of the answer to everything I do, just about, is do I have the materials? What materials do I have? That's what I'm going to use. And so that this is no different. And I'm trying to make sure I get all of the raw edges on this and catch my knot in something it'll actually hold. The rayon does not hold the knots at all. It just pops right through. So you have to anchor it into the velvet, and then with the hem stitch, single strand or half a strand is the goal of fabric, that you pick up. That way it doesn't show, and it's very tedious for me. I haven't figured out a way to do it faster. And do that all the way up. This is in the back. It is not as important that the stitching not show. I guess you rarely see the back of your doll's dress, but I'm gonna go ahead and try and do a nice neat job back here. I'm stuck. There we go. This project has been interesting in that as you're trying to fit this together, and you're not quite certain it's going to work. And I really didn't think about trims until after I had it together. And then I was like, oh, I'll just apply this trim. And of course that meant handwork. And places where it could have been stitched into the seam, and would have been so much easier. So if I make this into a pattern, if that's, something you want to see, yeah, everything will get streamlined and be so much, more straightforward, because all of the trim ideas and how to apply those, the faster way, I guess, the more efficient way, will have been worked out. I won't be trying to make you, it won't be the guesswork that I'm doing, which it's not guesswork, but it is guesswork. It's you got an idea, you have a plan, and then you're in it. And I had thought of the first incarnation as just kind of like a wearable muslin, and I didn't really think it was going to be the main feature. But I got it all put together, and I was like, this is actually needs the trim on it, and it just needs to be the feature. And I've been thinking about the pink that I had picked out, the pink silk, and I think I am going to wait until this season of the subscription is over, and then pick my favorite design, whatever it is I've done or Tamara's done, and make that up in the silk. And I am going to step away from this unless I get a request for the pattern. And work on a gold dress that I had planned to do before I even got Nima. I had planned to make her this gold silk dress, and I haven't gotten it done. And the silk is sitting there, and the pattern I want to use is sitting there, and I think that's going to be my next sewing project. But for the rest of today, I actually have to go and design and create some octopuses on mugs. We have to switch gears entirely. And yes, I won't leave this like this. It will get put onto a waistband, gathered up. So we've got the edges are all finished, right? Then you take a heavier duty thread, which of course I don't have here, and you gather up just below where you finish the edge. You're going to run just a straight running stitch and gather it up, and it'll make the little zigzag gather. Try and keep it all even. And then when I pick up to stitch it, and I'm thinking about using just hem tape, and this is a cotton hem tape. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is take do the cartridge pleats, which is basically picking up the top fold once it's, let's demo it here. Once it's gathered like this, and you've got a bunch of little gathers, you stitch through the top of the fold only and attach it to the hem tape. And the hem tape becomes the waistband. My only concern with doing this is that it's going to show. Is that once it's on her, that top is not going to cover the waistband. And that would be the complication, in which case I will have to cover it with, maybe I'll get the black velvet tape, or ribbon. I think I have some black velvet ribbon like I used on the other skirt, and I could put that over the hem tape. That way the ribbon's not doing the work. And I think that's probably a good solution to if it shows, because the black will blend better and with the dark colors. But anyway, cartridge pleat this on, and the front of the skirt here will go from being this wide down to about that wide, I think. So it won't be as gathered, but I need to keep my, we call them pleats because they're gathers. Just keep them really at least like 1/8 of an inch. Keep them tiny. And that should get us to the right fullness. And figure out exactly how big around it needs to be. I mean, obviously, I just go take a measurement and do that. Or find that waistband that's on the other skirt. That would be that measurement that I documented. That would be faster. Anyway, that is what has to happen here. I don't know if we can show this, but you see this distance here. This is how the skirt naturally lays, is with the back up here and the front down low because of that extension I did with a curve. Now, I'm hoping that when I gather it up, it doesn't hang funny, that it actually kind of does more like a curtain, swag, where it drapes. But I don't know that it's going to do that. I have no idea whether or not it's going to do what I want it to do. But we'll see. And if it doesn't work, then I know that the skirt has to be either completely rectangular straight, like it would have been historically, or entirely gored, all the way around, not... And I assume that's what this... I said the word gored, meaning this triangulated shape of each piece. I hope I'm using that term correctly. It came forward and I am now doubting it. So anyway, I'll either have to do it in a more Victorian style of like I did the first time, or the whole thing will have to be rectangle if this doesn't work. And I am, for the lines of what I want, I am leaning towards a rectangular skirt and the fullness, so that it, once on the doll, you get that, I can't demo that here. Her waist, and it comes out from the waist instead of down. The cartridge pleats help with that. So that's what I'm hoping for. And I will probably work on this tonight after I've cleaned up all the clay. I want to see whether or not we're there, whether or not I've got what I want. And I will post photos on my Instagram and Facebook. There is in the Grace Club a sneak peek of the first iteration, just a tiny little, it's mostly of the doll, but mostly of Grace, and not of, but you see a little tidbit of her wig, and that's where it'll first be posted, the pictures. But I will also post them on my personal pages so you can see it, and I will even put it up on YouTube once finished as a post, so you can find it. And I hope that you have a delightful day and a wonderful week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.